Our big focus this hour after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's official visit to Russia. He's all set to visit Austria today. This will be the first prime ministerial visit to Austria after 41 years, the last being of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1983. PM Modi has called his visit to Austria as a historic one, as this visit also comes when both the countries mark 75 years of their diplomatic relations. Prime Minister Modi will be meeting with Austrian President Alexander van der Bellen and hold talks with Chancellor Karl Nehammer. Prime Minister had met the then Austrian Chancellor, who is now the Foreign Minister, Alexander Schallenberg, on October 2021 on the sidelines of COP26 in Glasgow. His visit to Austria is expected to boost bilateral ties of the two nations. Talking about bilateral ties, India-Australia Startup Bridge was launched in February this year, which aims to collaborate startups of both the countries and also provide them entry to new markets. This meeting will also be focusing on trade, infrastructure, and investments in various other sectors as well. So what can we expect from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Austrian visit? Well, that is the big question. Joining us now, a very special guest. We have with us Ambassador Katharina Wieser, Austrian Ambassador to India, live with us. Ambassador Wieser, thank you very much for being with us today on NewsX. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Ambassador, Prime Minister's visit to Austria is historic. It comes after over 40 years. How excited are you for this milestone moment, and how will this impact our bilateral ties?
So, yes, you're absolutely right. This visit comes after 41 years of a visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Austria and 40 years after a return visit by an Austrian Federal Chancellor to India. And we are very excited, as you can imagine. It's been a very long time. And I can say that over the many years, we have developed a very good and friendly sound relationship in many, many areas. But of course, what was missing was an exchange at the highest level. And so we are very pleased that it is finally taking place, or the more that it is taking place in the year when we are celebrating 75 years of bilateral relations between Austria and India.
Now, Ambassador Katharina, the Indian-Austria Startup Bridge was launched this year itself in February to foster innovation and entrepreneurship between the two countries. It's off to a promising start. I believe about 20 Indian startups have visited Vienna. What can we look forward to as far as this initiative?
Yes, the Startup Bridge has been mentioned very often in the connection with this visit. First, maybe coming back to your former question, in general, of course, we are looking at this visit of Prime Minister Modi as a starting point to a further upgrade of our bilateral relationship, the whole broad range of our bilateral relationship. It is true that business and economic cooperation is one of the very important parts of this relationship. And here the Startup Bridge has caught the attention of many viewers and listeners. As you know, it was launched when the Austrian Federal Minister of Labor and Economy visited India this February, when he came here for a whole week to travel from Bangalore to Delhi to Mumbai. And it is going to be it shows that this has been an area of our business cooperation that has found special focus in the past 2 years. There have been several startup missions, I think 5 in the past 2 years, that have been going back and forth between Austria and India. And as you rightly mentioned, the bilateral startup bridge that was launched has also led to a very substantial participation of, I think, around 30 Indian participants at the Vienna Startup Festival only in June this year. The idea is to foster innovation and cooperation in the technology sector and promote entrepreneurship in these future-oriented, innovative sectors of our business relations.
Yes, also, Austria's breathtaking scenery makes it a popular tourist spot for Indians. Also, several popular Bollywood movies have been shot there. The number of Indian students, in fact, also is rising, which are going to universities in Austria. What is being done to further enhance people-to-people ties, ma'am?
you are quite right. Austria is well known for its beautiful landscape and also beautiful cities with a lot of historical architecture. Austria is a well sought after tourist destination for many tourists. It's a very important part of our economy. Many Indian tourists also travel to Austria. We are very happy about that. And these exchanges on the tourism level also help people-to-people contacts in general. In addition to these tourism contacts, of course, we have been promoting the exchange of university cooperation, student exchange, academic exchange in general, which we also find very important. Austrian universities are open and interested in welcoming more Indian students to our universities. We know that many Indian students go to English-speaking countries to continue their studies. Of course, in Austria, we speak German. So on the one hand, it would involve also learning some of the German language, but there are also English university courses that one can follow. So Austria is open to welcome more Indian students. Maybe this is a little pitch also to emphasize on that part of our relationship.
Right. Also, talking of economic ties now, Ambassador, bilateral trade stands at $2.93 billion. Key focus is on the electronic goods sector, electrical machinery and mechanical appliances as well. Now also a lot of attention being given to clean technologies and renewables as well. Where do you see the partnership headed with regards to economic ties and also the focus now of us regarding addressing the climate change problem as well?
Well, the focus of our economic relationship is certainly future-oriented, and we are very much looking to an upgrade of our business relations to a sustainable economy and technology partnership. Austria is very well known for its high-tech industrial sector. We are also in India now and today already engaged very much in the area of industrial modernization, high-tech products and machinery, but also going more and more into sustainable sectors of the economy. So there are many Austrian companies also engaged in renewable energies, which we will try to support and upgrade in the future. Many Austrian companies also involved in smart city, intelligent traffic management systems, and this kind of engagement. But definitely with regard to the huge challenge of fighting climate change together, we need to make sure that our economies transition to a more sustainable kind of economy. And there, I think the high-tech capabilities of Austrian companies can make a difference. And that is definitely the direction we are heading into, a more sustainable, more engagement in the renewable energy sector and in sustainable technology sector.
Okay, my final question then to you. Austria's first 2 satellites were launched by ISRO from Sriharikota way back in 2013. What is the scope for further avenues of collaboration, perhaps in the space sector as well?
Well, to be honest, yes, I have heard. We actually visited ISRO together with our Minister of Labour and Economy only in February. Very, very interesting to see what incredible strides at the scientific and technological level India has made in that area. So, of course, there's interest at the scientific level. I do not think that at the moment we're planning to launch more satellites from India, but at the same time, maybe yes, I don't think so, but in the scientific research area, of course, space research and collaboration is a very interesting area of cooperation also for the future. And I think there are also some Indian companies active in the field who are part of the delegation traveling now to Vienna and participating in the business roundtable that will be held tomorrow also in the presence of the Prime Minister and the Austrian Federal Chancellor.
Right. My final question then to you, where do relations then head post this visit?
Relations, they head into the future, and I would say towards a more even more enhanced, upgraded bilateral strategic relationship. Even though we have had a very good relationship in the past, now is the moment, I think, to take off and take it to new heights. And that will be happening, I'm pretty sure, and should continue with further high-level visits, but also be, of course, focused very much towards business and economic collaboration, but also will be tightened and improved also in the area of research collaboration, university exchange in the education sector, and people-to-people contacts and cultural cooperation. So I think the whole broad gamut of our bilateral relations from now on will receive an sort of extra impetus from this visit that we are looking forward to.
All right, we certainly hope for that. Ambassador Katharina Visser, thank you very much for joining us on NewsX with your perspective on this big story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's also bring in some more guests joining us now. Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat, also joins us live. Alok Bansal, Director, India Foundation, is live with us. Mitali Nikore, economist, also joins us live. Ambassador Sikri, first to you. Clearly, of course, a historic visit. The fact that it's coming after over 40 years does mean a lot for the Austrians, as we were just hearing from the ambassador. Where do you see our India-Austria relationship currently? And also, what do you make of this decision by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to finally go there for a visit?
Taking place after 40 years, Prime Minister Modi has been doing a lot of these visits, bilateral visits, even to Nepal and, for example, Sri Lanka took place after many, many years. So I think that's one important point. The second is the overall context of the India-EU relationship. I think this is very important because India has been reaching out to a number of the smaller countries of the EU. Our External Affairs Minister visited Greece, and now our Prime Minister is in Austria. We know that the India-EU relationship overall is significant because the EU is at one time it was India's largest trading partner when the UK was still a part of the EU. But even now, the EU is India's third largest trading partner, and bilateral trade is about $88 billion, which is a lot. But we are looking to grow this, and we're looking to build exchanges not only in trade, but in investment and in services as well. And because of this interest and this great potential that all the countries of the EU hold, we have been negotiating a free trade agreement with the EU, which started way back in 2007 and then sputtered out a bit and now restarted in 2022. And hopefully trying to finish the negotiations by the end of 2024, but let's see how that works out. And for completing these negotiations successfully, we do need the participation of all the members of the EU, and countries like Austria would play a very, very can play a very important role in this. So it is important to be on absolutely direct relationship and talks with them. We have already seen the startup bridge that you spoke about. So in technology, maybe in financial services, that interaction is already there. The Austrian business community, the young members of the startup community, they all see great potential in India. But we need to work with the government level to iron out the difficulties that have been holding up this India-EU FTA. This India-EU FTA would mean a lot because all the countries of the EU would be covered by it. And separately, as you know, we are negotiating a FTA with the UK as well. So I think in this context, Prime Minister Modi's visit is very timely, and his meetings with the leadership of Austria would really open up the possibility. We've seen, for example, in the EU that Germany and France are our two largest partners. Netherlands is also a big partner. And now with Italy, we have seen a great upswing in the relationship. And as part of this, we are seeing now the visit to smaller countries like Austria as well. And I'm sure the visit will go very well. It will create the level of understanding between the leadership of the two countries that would be an important part in the FTA when we negotiate not only trade, but look at services and investment as well.
Yes, let me also, in fact, quickly rope in Alok Bansal into the conversation. Alok Bansal, clearly, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, making a decision to visit Austria, as he has with several nations which have not seen high-level delegations visit them, including, of course, prime ministerial trips. This is, in fact, I think over 40 years that such a visit is happening. The last visit to Austria by a prime minister from India was Indira Gandhi. So, your thoughts on this decision by PM Modi, as has been constant with him to various other, nations which have not seen a visit by a prime minister in very, very long. And where do you see India-Austria ties, beg your pardon, headed post this visit?
See, this visit is extremely important. Firstly, as I said, as Ambassador Sikri said, EU is a very important partner. India-Austria trade itself is around $2 billion. But more significantly, at this point of time, most of our trade with Russia is being routed through Raiffeisen Bank of Austria, which actually is still functioning in Russia and is actually still a very important via media as far as trading with Russia is concerned. Because Austria maintaining its neutrality, its bank is functioning in Russia. And Raiffeisen Bank is actually one of the main medium through which large number of Indian businesses are still dealing with Russia. In fact, it's one of the source of trading with Russia. So that's important. And Austria, as you know, historically has been a very important country. It has very, very old cultural relations with India. In fact, one of the oldest chairs of Sanskrit studies and Indology have been in Austria. Austria was a powerful country in Europe. And I think 41 years is a long, long time. There is a substantive Indian diaspora, also large number of Indian startups are going to Austria, and we also have substantive about $600 million worth of Austrian investment in India. So Austria is important. It's an important country in Europe. And I think it's very, very important that Prime Minister is going. And Austria is also, as you know, by treaty bound to be a neutral country because of the historical reasons. So it's very important to visit Austria. And I think it makes sense for Prime Minister to go there. It will usher in greater interaction between the two countries, and it enhances trade considerably between these two countries.
Come in here on on economic ties between India and Austria, beg your pardon. Where do they stand currently? And and as far as this startup program is concerned, we believe already some entrepreneurs, some budding startups have gone to Vienna this year itself. That program was, of course, launched in February. How big a game changer potentially could that be? And where do you really see India-Austria relations currently vis-a-vis trade and economic ties?
Uday, is that for me?
Yes, Mithali, that question was for you.
Hi, Uday. So, no, absolutely, I agree with you, Uday. The entire focus on startups is something that's very new for India-Austria relations. As Alokji very rightly said, the trade that is currently happening between India and Austria is entirely focused on the IT sector. It's focused on the chemical engineering sector. It's focused on, the telecom sector. The telecom sector, accounts for a very large proportion of the India-Austria trade relationship. Because, of course, telecom is one of the largest companies in Austria, which has huge investment interests in India. On top of that, chemicals manufacturing is another major area where, there's a massive trade relationship in the entire raw material supply chain. So I think, but beyond these traditional areas, it is very important for both India and Austria to start looking at growth opportunities, renewable energy startups which focus on the circular economy, startups focusing on wastewater management, startups focusing on, energy conservation and energy transition. These are the 4 or 5 massive major areas which have been identified as part of this startup conference. And a lot of young entrepreneurs in these areas particularly are being featured at the Vienna startup, show that you talked about. So I think there is that, sort of interest. But what we have to really get out of this relationship is patient capital and investments. We should not be seeing just one roadshow or one visit, but we should be seeing a long-term investment relationship develop between the two countries, where, for example, chambers of commerce become much more active, where we see, MSMEs between the two countries, not only the large companies cornering that economic relationship, but the MSME sectors of the two countries also coming together. It's also important to mention the gender aspects here, because Austria is one of the global leaders in female labor force participation in the care economy. And these are areas, again, where, we can bring in Austrian expertise, investment, and look at how to operationalize, investments in gender sensitive and gender focused areas. And vice versa, even in Austria, they can gain a lot from Indian students. They can gain a lot from Indian expertise and IT, sector expertise, which has already been there for many decades. In fact, I remember my father himself going to Austria hundreds of times just to, participate in all of those bids, for the IT sector. So Indian IT has been servicing Austrian companies for a very long time, and we need more of that, even on-site, initiatives to be taken. But on all of these areas, huge amount of cooperation is possible.
Yes, absolutely. Let me, in fact, also quickly rope back in Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, as far as, of course, the startup program is concerned, this is something that Prime Minister Modi has also been emphasizing on, become a job giver, not just a job taker. We've also seen the revolutionary Startup India program that was started by his government. And now with this collaboration with Austria, how big a boost can our entrepreneurs actually get?
It can provide a big boost, because if Austria becomes, let's say, the nodal country in the European Union for dealing with startups, we start with this India-Austria cooperation on startups and extend it to the rest of the European Union. And Austria could facilitate that for a lot of Indian companies, and vice versa for EU companies to come to India and participate in startup deals with a number of Indian youth. So I think this can be a very promising area of cooperation, and if it is further discussed during this visit, I'm sure it will be in greater detail, and we are bound to have in the outcome document some reference to how to carry this further. And when we're looking at carrying it further, I think that Austria could very usefully play a pan-EU role for India in the startup area, which, as I said, involves technology, involves finance, and involves exchange of young people. And, it could lead to even more Indian students going to study high-tech subjects in Austria, in addition, of course, to all the traditional visits by tourists and film shooting and all that. So I think that, it's always good to focus or to specialize the relationship with each of the EU countries in different areas. And startups is one very valuable area for India, Austria, EU. And if Austria is interested in this, it's good for us, and we should carry it forward very strongly.
Yes, Alok Bansal, people-to-people ties also, will get a fillip through this visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, isn't it? Perhaps he will also be interacting with the diaspora there, as he does on, many occasions abroad, and as he did in Moscow as well this morning.
Undoubtedly, I think one of the key cornerstones of Prime Minister Modi's policy has been engagement with Indian diaspora. Wherever he has gone, he is actively engaged with Indian diaspora, and Indian diaspora is now beginning to be seen as a powerful tool of Indian diplomacy. And that's a very welcome change in last 10 years plus that we have seen. So Prime Minister Modi would be interacting. As I said, there is a Indian diaspora, and it will grow as if IT and startup start setting shops in Austria. You will see that there'll be a greater movement of people, because one of the basic requirements of an IT environment, if it has to be set up in Austria, which could be the base for entire Europe for Indian IT companies, is that there should be a freedom of movement between India and Austria for people. And that's been one of India's key demands wherever we have talked of IT. Another sector that I think we can probably explore is apparels, actually. We have been trying to get a breakthrough into European apparel markets, where some of the countries have got GSP plus status.
Right.
Pakistan, which have had a preferential treatment. I think we need to breach that, and for that again we need a bridgehead inside Europe, and I think Austria could be one of the countries where many of Indian apparel.
So those are certain ways in which perhaps our relationship can develop, and hopefully will develop over the course of Prime Minister's visit to Austria. Well, we'll keep tracking his trip. For the time being, though, we've run totally out of time.